Now, Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
6:37 on Thursday morning. Brian and Brian on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. And we even let Lanny Davis talk sometimes here on this radio station. How are you, Lanny?
Well, I want to thank you for the privilege of giving me my at least 30 seconds of being beaten up on by you every week.
Come on. All right, listen, actually, I think you and I are in agreement on one thing. I read your column about Cory Booker. Now, for those who don't know the story, Cory Booker is the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, got on the Meet the Press this weekend and said he was uncomfortable and attacks on Bain Capital, said that he thought that such attacks were, quote-unquote, crap. And about an hour after that, he apparently was brought to the Obama campaign woodshed and beaten soundly until he gave what some have characterized as a hostage video in which he recanted the things he had said on Meet the Press. Your thoughts?
Well, actually, that was a slightly inaccurate accounting of what happened. He started out by describing his support for President Obama's national health care, for his tax cuts, and he has subsequently reminded the Republican Party that he stands opposite from Romney on almost every issue and supports President Obama. And he actually said what was crap was the negativity on both sides, because he also mentioned the proposed campaign against Obama that was going to be a lot of negativity, including reference to Burn Right. So he was being pretty balanced. He does disagree with any broad ad, which I think went up, I believe, unfortunately, that describes all equity capital as bad, and that in this case the ad put up was misleading. It didn't describe what happened accurately. In fact, that company was saved by Bain for a while before it went under. And in my column today in the Hill, I mentioned that the head of the union said it was foreign imports that killed the company, not Bain Capital.
You know, here's what I don't understand, Lanny, is that I think it's fine for the administration or the campaign to, run ads against Bain and then talk about it with Mitt Romney. But the thing that I don't quite get, and I think it's hypocritical, is that you have a major bundler for the Obama administration was the head of Bain at one point. I mean, so they have their own private equity guys that are in the position now of making money for the president.
Look, I have no problem with negative ads if they're about issues and they're accurate. If the issue is that Governor Romney has an attitude towards layoffs and towards people that is insensitive, and sometimes he has sounded that way when he says, I like to fire people, and I think that's a mistake by Romney. I don't think he's hard-hearted, but he just sounds that way. That's a fair issue. It's also a fair issue to discuss their competing views of what government is all about. President Obama and I believe government is an important part of helping those that are less fortunate and guaranteeing national health care, and that's a great debate. Republicans and Romney disagree with what I wouldn't sing on the issues, and I think what Cory Booker, Steve Ratner, Congressman Harold Ford, myself, we are liberal Democrats who support Barack Obama. If they put us in the woodshed because we have a disagreement on tactics as opposed to supporting President Obama on his policies, it's quite remarkable that Cory Booker should really be criticized within the White House and within the Obama campaign and on strident cable television programs when he supports President Obama 99% on everything, and the 1% is an ad that we all think in this group of liberal Democrats is misguided because it's not accurate. So I don't think really that President Obama is that intolerant of disagreement within his own ranks that he puts someone in the woodshed like Cory Booker, who is a courageous, progressive Democrat and who in Newark, New Jersey has done great things and who supports President Obama.
I want to talk about Joe Biden because the vice president is often touted as the guy who can go into areas like, Pennsylvania and Ohio, and he can connect with those white working class.
Lunch Bucket Joe.
Lunch Bucket Joe. He can connect with a blue-collar guy. Well, there's a new poll that says in the 12 swing states, Biden's unfavorably are higher than they are nationwide. He has an unfavorable rating of 54%, even higher than the president. So is Biden the right guy to be the running mate?
Absolutely the right guy. And people don't vote for vice president, but they do want somebody who's qualified to be president. And I think Biden, in his years in the Senate, chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, there's no question he could step in as the President of the United States and nobody would worry. Compare that to...
Really?
For example,
You think nobody would worry?
Yes. I have absolutely no doubt if you took a poll whether he's qualified to be president after serving, I think, 4 or 5 terms in the United States Senate, being chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. I think that people...
We'll agree to disagree on that one.
People don't vote for vice president, but they do want the vice president to be qualified. Compare that to the about Sarah Palin, who people had serious doubts about whether she was qualified or ready to be president. So, look, I think Joe Biden is a terrific human being. He's a friend for many years. He's a great vice president. He served Obama very well, given him candid advice, not always followed, but that's what vice presidents are supposed to do. He is going to be the candidate for vice president, and I'm sure he's going to be the candidate and elected vice president.
All right.
He's not going to be replaced, I can assure you.
Only have a few minutes left, but are you concerned? Because the president had a tough primary in Kentucky against uncommitted. You know, that well-known person, uncommitted, tight race in West Virginia against a convicted felon in jail. I mean, seriously, that's not good news to the president,
No,
is it, Lanny?
it's definitely not going to carry those 2 states. It's bad news for Kentucky and West Virginia, but I think we lost those to McCain by...
You did.
Anyway, so look, I am concerned that the Obama numbers remain in the 40s in a head-to-head contest against a Republican nominee that still hasn't been introduced to the country. Remember, we haven't had the bump of the Republican convention. We haven't had Romney truly introduced to most people who don't know him. The Republicans know him, and all they knew from the ads that were used were quite negative things about Romney. You look at all the difficulties Romney's experienced. President Obama is in a dead heat. So you have to say that this is going to be a tough election if President Obama isn't ahead of Romney now. And I fear that Romney has more upward potential than undecided and independent voters if they're not for President Obama now, or what will make them be for President Obama. I don't think it's beating up on Romney, and I don't think it's personal attacks. I think what will make the swing voters for President Obama is to remind them about his record. I think his record is a record. I think the economy isn't great, but I think what he did saved us from much worse. That's a tough argument to make, but that's certainly the argument that was made at least by John McCain when he came out of the election, out of the nominating convention, and he looked at an economy that wasn't great. He was certainly forced to defend what I thought was a very difficult economic situation.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad.
No doubt. All right. Well, listen, Lanny, thanks always for coming in and sharing and doing due diligence to present the other side. We appreciate it.
You guys were unusually nice to me.
Yeah, well, we're
We'll try harder next week, okay?
We'll try to make sure that doesn't
Good
last.
morning. Thank you.
6:40.